So the hypocrites in the Green Party are going to vote through the CETA deal, which would see corporations have the right to sue Ireland if we don't hand over, for example, Irish water to the corporations. What was the point of the water charges movement if they just vote through a deal that lets corporations sue the state if we don't hand over everything to the corporations? In 2017, the Green Party leader Eamon Ryan said they were against the CETA deal. CETA is a deal between the EU and Canada. Like the way the TTIP deal, TTIP, is a deal between the US and the EU. CETA is the same thing but between the EU and Canada. It allows corporations to sue nation states if they don't hand over their resources, their public services and their assets. The CETA deal is like Denis O'Brien's wet dream. Imagine Denis O'Brien or some US vulture fund having the right to sue the Irish state if they don't hand over public land or Irish water. And the hypocrisy of the Green Party. I mean, we know full well by now they don't give a damn about working class people. But you'd think that they'd live up to their promise to give a damn about the environment. But no. If environmental laws impact the profits of corporations, CETA gives the corporation the right to sue. So what's in the CETA deal? Well, first of all, there's the investor-state settlement courts. This entitles corporations to financial compensation if measures a government takes interferes with their profits. For example, the French corporation Veolia sued the Egyptian state because the Egyptian state raised the minimum wage. And a raise in the minimum wage would hit Veolia's profits. Imagine a world where every time workers win a strike and get better wages, a corporation can say, well, we're suing the state unless you reduce the minimum wage. In 2013, Occidental Petroleum sued the government of Ecuador because of a loss of oil revenue. I mean, normally people like Denis O'Brien have to stuff a brown envelope into the top pocket of the Fianna Fáilers and the Fine Gaelers. But CETA does away with that. What once went on behind the scenes will now be legal. The corporations can just take what they want. So welcome in, boys, Ireland's up for grabs. 2. Public services. Governments have to put public services on what's called a negative list. If they don't put public services on this negative list, the public service is up for grabs by corporations. And if the governments don't hand it over, the corporation can sue. So unless you explicitly list a public service as not for sale, it's for sale. I mean, so far, the government over in Britain hasn't even put the NHS on the negative list. And by the way, the services up for grabs include education. 3, it'll put pressure on wages. Any barrier to trade can be challenged once this deal is signed. And workers' rights can be defined as a barrier to trade. So say goodbye to the right to unionised representation or collective bargaining. Say goodbye to the right for wage agreements. And if pay deals aren't to the corporation's tastes, they can sue the state. This represents a historic challenge to the right to collective bargaining that working class people have fought for over a century. And lastly, the whole negotiation of the CETA deal was done in secret. In other words, no representatives of workers or unions, NGOs, any of those type of people were allowed in. It was governments and corporations who wrote up these deals behind closed doors. In 2017, Eamon Ryan was against CETA. But now he's sitting at the table with the big boys in Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. And when he's not asleep, he's going to sell off this country bit by bit to the vulture funds and corporations. And to cover his tracks, he'll probably introduce a few cycle lanes. But what's the point of a cycle path along a river when the river belongs to Google or Veolia? The government was going to sneak a vote on CETA through the Dáil last Tuesday, December the 15th. But people kicked up such a fuss that they had to delay the vote. The vote is now going to take place in the spring. So far, a couple of Green TDs have said they're against it. But the majority of the Green Party will probably toe the line, unless the public kick up a massive fuss in the next few weeks. The Irish state has always been a weapon of the rich. It's always been a tool for the rich. The rich have always used the Irish state to get what they want. From Denis O'Brien getting his hands on the water meter contracts or our telecoms infrastructure, to local developers bribing their way to planning permission for a badly built block of flats to make themselves a quick fortune and then go drinking with their buddy from Fianna Fáil. But with TTIP and CETA coming along, those secret bribes are no longer necessary. O'Brien can just use his $3.9 billion to threaten to sue the Irish state if they don't hand over whatever he wants. And it gives cover to the politicians in Fianna Fáil to Fine Gael, who want to hand everything over to the rich. They want this. They want to do this. But they can say, oh, it's not our fault. Oh no, CETA makes us have to do it. We need to kick up a fuss in the next few weeks. Contact every single Green member, Green councillor and Green TD and tell them how angry you are that the CETA deal could go through. And in the end, Irish water, our rivers, our resources, our forests, our fisheries, none of our resources or public services, none of our rights will ever be safe as long as the Irish state is a machine for the protection of the rich. The only way we're ever going to challenge that machine is if us working class people get together and rise up.